I was a pretty bad person. I was committing a lot of violent crimes, hurting people, taking things off people. I was transitioning from leaving a gang lifestyle behind. Unfortunately, I ended up in that institution, and I suffered abuse there at the hands of a corrections officer more than once. Started fucking up even more, back on parole. Then I joined a gang, a bikie gang. So it feels good to give back now and be able to talk to people who have been through this.
And I'll just have to adjust for you.
Yeah.
That won't be too long. So
Yeah,
we'll
man.
just set up anyway, so.
No worries.
Okay. You know, straight into the camera?
Yep, good to go.
Can you tell us who you are?
My name is Jacob Little, and I am 31 years old. I'm based on the north side of Brisbane.
Can you tell us a little bit about ATFJ?
About Time for Justice was founded about 2.5 years ago now. Me and my father founded the company, and what we do is we help survivors of institutional child abuse to seek justice, start healing and possible compensation.
Yeah, when I was, say, 12, 13 years old, I've been locked away on a number of occasions. One being down in Sydney, boys' home. The other being down here in my local town, boys' home. I guess, yeah, I've done some bad things and got myself sent away sort of thing. And yeah, one thing led to another and led to the workers there sexually abusing me. And
we're really big on supporting and advocating for any survivor that's been through the institutional abuse. We help them get in contact with the appropriate supports that they need, whether that's speaking to medical professionals, legal professionals, and helping them men and women that have been through the abuse. We help to take the sad stories. Some of them stories may take a long time and many sessions to be able to share them, build that trust and rapport. We offer that ongoing support throughout the whole period. These things take time, and we are here to help. Survivors could be a survivor of institutional abuse. That could be from a boys' home, girls' home, foster cares, DOCs, any youth detention centres, any churches or church-run institutions, any missions, reserves, community-based groups, sporting teams, Girls Guides, Scouts, after-school cares. They could be hostels, any PCYCs, police boys clubs, basically any Australian institution that's failed to protect a child's innocence.
After this experience and, you went through such trauma, how did this affect your life?
well, my life's been it's been up and down ever since, and really it's been in and out of jail. You wouldn't think that's a place you'd want to go back to after having that happen to you in juveniles, but I don't know, I blame that for the reasons why my life's just gone to being institutionalised now. Can't stay out of jail, can't stay out of trouble.
We, most importantly, firstly build that trust with survivors because they know about mine and my father's story. We work heavily in the prison systems, and a lot of that trust is built around myself and my father being to jail and walk that lifestyle. Very excited, just rocked up to do a talk to some kids from around the north side of Brisbane at a place called YDF, stands for Youth Development Foundation. They do some really good programs for kids. They might be disengaging in the community, and they just do a lot of good programs, show really good support. So I'm coming down here today to share my story, what we do, and sort of help them with some skills, set up a little program for them. So we're really excited.
I'll let him tell that story because it's a fucking pretty cool story about where he's from, where he got to, and his journey back from where he went. You get drunk while we're at school. Because that behaviour is going to lead to bigger and dumber behaviour if we don't try and manage it now. You know, like I've said to you all, I've done dumb, stupid shit in my time, and I probably will in the near future. Maybe Friday. But it's not a vindictive, dumb thing, and I'm certainly not hurting anybody or anything else. Myself, yeah, but that's okay. Have those thoughts. And yeah, if you're a group of guys out Friday night and someone's like, let's fucking roll, old mate, you have every right to walk away from that.
So I went through Brisbane Youth Detention Centre. At that time it was inside a BCC, and when I was there I was sexually abused by a prison officer. He come into my cell and I was only pretty young. He was sort of bigger than me, there's not much I could do. He took advantage of me more than once. And you know, before I went to that place, I was only 17. Literally just finished high school. Started fucking up, started drinking, started hanging around the wrong crowds. Landed myself in the Boys Yard. You know, I was only 17 at the time, and I think what led me to get in there with the charges was I had a fight. Which the reason why we had that fight was because these guys bashed my mates. I was sort of, at that young age, I was gangstering on and getting in trouble here and there. But yeah, so these guys bashed my mates, so we retaliated and bashed them back. And then I was on bail and I was on a curfew. So I was on bail for 2 days. And at that time, I didn't really drink or take drugs too much, but I took drugs this night and I couldn't handle them. And I went and robbed somebody. So I robbed somebody, committed robbery of violence. And the police come to my house. It was pretty stupid. If you're going to be a criminal, you know, sometimes things just don't go down the way you wanted them to, but this was so stupid. I walked across the road from my house, went to a bus stop, bashed somebody, robbed them, walked across the road, they see me, the police were called, and obviously I denied it. They walked me out the front and they patted me down and pulled the bloke's wallet out of my shorts, so I was pinched, I was gone. So anyway, woke up in the watch house, and that's what landed me in the Brisbane Boys Yard.
No smart criminals in jail, but...
Nah, there's not many at all. So if you can think about that, I only just finished high school, you know, I was playing footy, going to the beach, hanging out with my friends. So how old are you guys? 15? So yeah, I was just a little bit older than you guys. So I turned 18 in there. So most people, you know, kids, they have their 18th birthday outside of jail with their friends, their families, their loved ones. I spent my 18th birthday getting transferred from BCC to Arthur Gorrie, and it was pretty shit. Like, it was one of the worst times of my life. When I got to Arthur Gorrie, so when you get to correctional centre, you go through the sort of first main section, and they give you like your toiletries, they'll give you clothes, buy-ups. So I got given all that stuff, and I was pretty scared. I was walking, you know, from the main reception where I just went through down to the yards, and then I was scared because of what had happened to me. So yeah, I was only just turned 18 that day, and you know, just imagine, you know, what had just happened to me in that boys' yard. So I was very scared. When I got in there, fortunately, my father's in a gang as well, and he was in a gang. We both were in a gang, and he got his guys. He was in the New South Wales prison system. He was doing a 16.5-year prison sentence. So he put the word up to the boys in where I was, and luckily there was people there. So I sort of got in there, and they sort of looked after me and schooled me up and showed me what to do, what not to do. I was pretty lucky there. So I went to walk down the stairs and I seen these two guys doing something. I didn't know what they were doing, but they were shooting up, and it was one of the first times I had ever seen it, and I fucking freaked out. And they had this big spoon, and they were mixing up and they were having a shot, and I was only very young, and I was very scared because I hadn't seen that before. Like as I said before I went in, I was drinking, taking a little bit of drugs, but I never seen anyone shoot up, and I was fucking scared because I hate needles. Even though I got tattoos, I don't like needles. I seen these guys sort of doing it, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? I just cruised, I turned around and walked off. And later on that night, the food come down, dinner come down. It comes down in trolleys, comes down in big Bain Maries, and later that night when I noticed what they were serving the food with was that big spoon that them guys were just shooting up with. So it's pretty disgusting. Obviously they cleaned it, but You know, these guys are mixing their blood up and things like that on the spoon. So it's pretty disgusting. That really made me ask questions about, you know, what am I doing myself? But when I got out, I was really angry about what had happened. Started taking a lot of drugs, started drinking a lot of alcohol. So I was just, you know, I was going through a lot. I was only a young kid. I didn't have really many male models in my corner telling me, you know, you should try and be a chippy or you should go to university. My whole network at that point just started being around like gangs or criminals. You know, I was very heavily involved in the gang lifestyle. My dad got taken away from me when I was 10 years old to serve that 16.5-year prison sentence. So, you know, I had dad from a young age. I was visiting prisons, having jail visits. My mates were in jail. My whole network was guys, you know, who were criminals and on the other side of the law back then. Jump in. Should be jumping in a second. Hello everybody, this is Jacob Little from Survivor Stories, and I have a friend of mine, Glenn Fisher, coming on the show today to talk about his story and what he's doing. Good morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah,
Get
thanks
my
for jumping
footy
on,
today.
mate. Hello everybody, this is Jacob Little from Survivor Stories, and I have one of my good friends on the pod today. Her name is Rocket. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you? Yeah. When you're ready.
About Time for Justice has a big meaning to me. You know, it's support and advocacy for people who have been through injustices, been through the prison systems, been, you know, swept under the carpet. So, you know, really just, to me, it's more than just helping people that have been through institutional abuses. It's just about helping people that have been fucked over by the system. So About Time for Justice, for me, it gave me a purpose, it gave me a passion, it gave me drive to help others that have been, you know, fucked over by the system. And we, you know, help so many people all over Australia, and it feels so good for me to be able to give back, because when I was younger, I used to take a lot, and I ended up, you know, on a really bad track. I was fucking up. I was, you know, involved with more violence, back on bail, back on probation, back on parole. Then I ended up in a bikie gang where, you know, things escalated and I ended up getting locked up again, but this time was a lot more serious. I was looking at 20 plus years in jail. And around that time, there was some laws that come in. They were called the Vlad laws. If you got charged under that, you know, you're looking at 20 plus years in jail. And what that looks like is, if you get locked up, you get made to go into 22.5-hour-day lockdowns. You're made to wear pink. That sounds like a joke, but it's not. You get no TV in your cell. We had no exercise equipment in the yard, and, you know, even pedophiles in the other parts of the jails, they even had exercise equipment. So we had no contact to the outside world except for that one phone call a day and one non-contacted visit a week. We were fed through our cell doors every day. We were treated like animals. Not enough food, you know, no books, no nothing, just sitting in there. So previously, about a couple of days before I actually got charged again when I was on parole, I had been down at seeing my other mate. He got sentenced in jail. I think he got 8 or 9 years, and he was in the same, you know, crew that I was. So I only just seen my mate go to jail, but he didn't get charged under them laws. It was before them laws come in. Anyway, I was at the gym 6 days later and I had a fight with someone, me and my coie. We had a fight, and I don't know if we were under investigation, like getting followed at that time or not, but the police were there very quickly. Yeah, I think we were, because they got there pretty quickly. You know, next thing I know, I was fucking. We actually shook hands after the fight. Said, sweet, it's all good. But then, you know, we went to get out of there, and there was lots of police. There was a helicopter. I drove off in a separate car to my coie. I got locked up. He got locked up. And I got charged under the Vlad laws. So all them, charges and conditions, I was faced with that. So I was put into back at Southport Watch House and then transferred to Brisbane Correctional Centre, which is the first jail I went to as an adult. So I got transferred from the Boys Yard to BCC, the first sentence. So my second sentence straight to BCC. And I got put straight into segregation. As soon as I got to BCC, we were sort of celled up. All the cells had different gang members in it. So I was in this cell, and then the other gang member that I was locked up with down this end, I couldn't really hear him, but the other fellows were like, oh, he's down there. And I was like, oh, hey, what are you doing? And he just yelled out back, but we couldn't really hear each other. Anyways, I think we done about 7 days there, and he actually sent me down a chocolate, and at that time, it was about 14 days in the watch house, so I didn't have any sweets or treats, so it was pretty good. And so from there, we went to Woodford Correctional Centre, so they had its own sort of, they called it the bikie unit, was where we got taken to. And at that time on the outside, we had dramas with like other clubs, other people. So on the way up there, we got to talk to each other, like, this gang's here, there's 8 of them, there's only 2 of us. What are we going to do? And we had to go out no matter what, because if we didn't go out, then if our own crew found out about it, we probably could have got bashed or kicked out. So we just said, whatever happens, we're going to go out back to back, no matter what happens. So we got put into the yard with the 8 other gang members. Nothing happened, so that was pretty lucky for us. I was pretty scared. There's 8 of them. There was only 2 of us. It wouldn't have went good for us. But so I got out of there after serving, I think, 2.5 months in that isolation. I was lucky because my mum used to come up and visit on a non-contact. Non-contact means it's just a perspex glass, so you can't touch or feel. You just look through a glass and talk through the mesh. So, it was pretty hard for my mum. I think when she first seen me, she was really upset. It was really hard for her. It really made me ask myself questions about what I want to do with my life, where I'm going to be. And at that time, I was lucky. I had good family support. A lot of guys in jail don't have family support. My father, he was serving that 16.5-year prison sentence, so he was writing to me from New South Wales. So I did have a little bit of family support there, and made it easier, because some of them times I was thinking to myself, fuck, is this the rest of my life? Is this the way that my life's going to be? My dad's writing to me, he's already doing 16.5 years straight, and he's on to his 10th year. I was like, is this it for me? And it was a really hard time in my life. I was very lonely, scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. So yeah, I spent about 2.5 months in there. Then I got out of there, back into the mainstream, and yeah, kept continuing my prison sentence. When I got out, I was back fucking up again. I was back on bail for getting in trouble, and I was just fucking up. And I was back in the gangs. I was on non-association though. And at this time, what that meant was I wasn't allowed to hang out with other people because I was on parole, other gangs and other things like that. So I thought, I want to get out of this life. I'm just over it. And I told the gang members, and I left. But I was still on bail for some charges that I had committed, and I was trying to stay out of jail. So I was doing whatever I could. They weren't making me do, it was up to me, but it looked better for court. So doing the counselling, the anger management, and it was shit. Every time I walked in there with a really bad attitude. I was like, I'm only here for court, fuck this. But then I was like, why don't I try and take something from this? Why don't I just maybe just listen and see if something works? And then I walked in with all right, I'm enjoying it now. So I ended up doing about 20 of them sessions, and they really helped me. They don't sound like fun, and no one wants to sit there listening to someone who doesn't have lived experience talk about, feelings, emotions. I didn't even know what they were, but they really helped me. So with that and Dad getting out of jail, I've completely changed my life. I'm going to be travelling through Queensland, North Queensland. We're going to be in Hervey Bay, Gladstone, Mackay, Townsville, Cairns, Mareeba. So if you know anyone is living up these ways. You think they might benefit from catching up with us and having a yarn. You know, we're helping so many survivors all over this country. I started travelling around down in New South Wales. I went out to remote communities down there, and I went to a lot of First Nations communities down there and done a lot of work with that mob down there. So yeah, Dad was coming up for parole. He got parole. I left the gang, and then I started sharing my story about going through the Brisbane Boys Yard. And then they encouraged me to start studying. Thank you. Hello everybody, thanks for coming tonight. I started studying at USQ. I done a tertiary preparation, and I was just sort of always was sharing my story with people, like the lecturers and stuff like that. But we always used to go over that question, you know, what happens if someone calls you a dog? And I was like, I'm going to get them. It's like, no matter what, I'm just going to have to do it. And then sort of towards the end of it, I was like, oh, maybe I could do it not near a camera. Really, at the end of the day, if someone calls me a dog and I do something, you know, next time I see him, is it worth going through all this? Is it worth going to jail?
Here's a little present from us to say thank you for sharing your story
Oh.
and being so fabulous.
Thank you.
Picture of amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I was like, oh fuck, imagine what all my other friends are going to think about me. You know, what are they going to think? Oh, you know, I'm studying now because I wanted to study law. And you know, that, you know, 8 years or whatever before, I was sitting in isolation looking at 20 plus years in jail. I was like, all my old mates are going to laugh at me. You know, what are these guys going to think? And I was like, I don't really give a fuck what these guys think. You know, at the end of the day, they're not going to put, you know, food on my table. You know, if I want to get through what I want to get through with my work, which is what I was doing, and then start studying. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to give it a crack. And now I'm doing a Bachelor of Legal Studies because I want to be a lawyer. I want to help people like myself that have been through, you know, been through the system, been through Housing Commission, been through drinking, drugs and alcohol. And, you know, I want to help to give them a voice. Me and Dad teamed up and used the money that I received from my compensation to start About Time for Justice. So we started that just over 2 years, 7 months ago now. So me and Dad, you know, started About Time for Justice. Hello, my name is Jacob Little, and we are from About Time for Justice.
Hello, I'm Todd Little. And what we do at About Time for Justice is support and advocate for survivors of institutional child abuse.
You know, we have a big team at the moment. It just used to be me and my dad. You know, we're not only helping people with institutional abuse, we help people with a lot of different stuff, you know. That could be, you know, getting in contact with housing when they get out of jail, could be helping out financially and non-financially. That could be keeping in contact with the next of kins of people's loved ones who are in prison, you know, supporting them, helping them, you know, because when you're in jail, it's not an easy place to be in, and also in particular for the family who's stuck on the outside.
Anyone else, if they are bottling it up and not speaking, I just urge them, speak to someone like Jacob or like you or whoever, you know, because these guys changed my life, and I never thought anyone would be able to change anyone, any part of my life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's happened, and I'm, you know, putting every foot forward now, and it's all thanks to Jacob, you know.
ATFJ has changed my life in so many ways. It's given me a real purpose and passion and drive to help people because, you know, just sort of how I grew up and, you know, that lifestyle, it sort of conditioned me to be in a certain way, and unfortunately I was a pretty bad person. I was committing a lot of violent crimes, hurting people, taking things off people. You know, so it feels good to give back now and be able to talk to people who have been through this. You know, I see so many times, so many days, you know, I still have my mates who are in the system still doing the wrong thing. You know, so it's a constant reminder when I talk to them on the jail phone to where I don't want to be, you know.